Japanese ghost stories are among some of the most fascinating. The land of the rising sun has superstition and fear of the dead deeply ingrained within it. The following are 3 Japanese tales of demons, curses, madness, and mountain spirits that have traveled generations, being told over candlelight and campfires. And now, I bring them to you. A long time ago, there lived a recently widowed man by the name of Ogiwara. He was wandering the streets on the first night of the Obon festival. Obon is a Japanese Buddhist holiday spent revering and honoring ancestors and family spirits, as the ghosts are expected to return and walk the earth. As the widower traversed the festival, he crossed paths with a beautiful woman and her servant. She carried an ornate lantern with a peony flower symbol on it. Ogiwara was drawn to her and invited her into his home. Her name was Atsuyu, and they quickly became physically intimate, and she stayed with him all night until early morning, when she left suddenly but reluctantly. Ogiwara, not knowing if he'd see her again, spent the day fearing that he would not. But the following evening, the beauty returned with her servant, carrying the same flower lantern. From that point, he fell deeply in love with Atsuyu, but this began to strangely affect him. He stopped leaving his home and did little to take care of himself, as the beautiful woman visited him every night continually, but still left around dawn. After 20 days of this, Ogiwara's neighbor, a wise old man, had noticed his strange reclusive behavior, and one night, hearing laughing and singing coming from his house, he peered through a hole in the wall. The old man was horrified at what he saw and heard. Ogiwara was embracing a skeleton, and upon taking a better look through the opening, he realized that the bones were not only standing on their own, but when Ogiwara spoke, the skull nodded and the arms and legs moved about. And when the jaws of the bony figure opened, an otherworldly voice filled the air. At daybreak, he warned Ogiwara that she was a ghost and pleaded with him to cleanse himself of the mysterious spirit at the temple. He followed the old man's advice, but upon reaching the temple, Ogiwara discovered Atsuyu's grave, with her old, tattered flower lantern draped across it. The temple priest gave him a protective charm to ward her off, and it worked well. He was no longer visited in the night. However, Ogiwara became depressed and missed Atsuyu deeply. Only a few days of separation after employing the charm, he got extremely drunk and carelessly wandered to the temple. And at the gates, his ghostly mistress appeared to him as she led him into the graveyard. After Ogiwara went missing, the priest felt compelled to check the grave of Atsuyu, and when the coffin was opened, there laid the body of Ogiwara, embracing her skeleton. This next legend comes from the 13th century. 3 wicked samurai visited the town of Manazuru. Kosanta, Matashigi, and Akaguro. At the time, the town was holding a festival, but they became extremely drunk and started to argue, and the fight became so heated, they drew their swords and managed to behead one another. The severed heads were said to roll into the sea. However, not even death could end their quarrel. The samurai were transformed into Onryo, or wrathful spirits. Their energy became trapped in the realm of the living, And soon after, people began witnessing 3 heads that would float to the surface, that would gnaw and bite at each other, and breathe flames in each other's directions, locked in an eternal argument. They're said to still haunt the sea around the same area and have been seen dancing on the surface as they spew flame and snap at each other. Locals still fear seeing them and avoid any waves grouped in 3s, as it's believed that this is the submerged spirits about to break the surface, bringing extremely bad luck and certain doom to those who see them with their own eyes. The mountains of Japan are vast, lonely places, home to terrifying and hideous creatures. The female mountain spirits, known as the Yama-uba. But this tale involves a spirit that was an exception. She was in some ways beautiful, but also ghastly, giving off a ghostly white glow. She's known as Yuki Onna, the Snow Woman, and she would gently lull travelers to sleep in snowstorms, a sleep from which they never woke from. The ancient story tells of 2 men, one young and one old, who took refuge in a mountain hut during a blizzard. And in the night, Yuki Onna entered the hut and breathed over the older man, then came to the younger. She told him she would spare his life if he kept her visit a secret. And the old man was dead in the morning, and the terrified young man let it be assumed that he froze to death and made no mention of the spirit. In time, he met a beautiful and gracious young woman named Yuki, meaning snow, but he never made any kind of sinister connection. Yuki was a loving wife and a great mother to the children they had together. One night they sat together in the lantern light, and the white light reflecting on Yuki's face reminded him of his encounter, and he told his wife of the tale of his youth and the Snow Woman who caused his companion's death. Suddenly, Yuki's natural color changed, and she transformed into the form he knew so well from so long ago. Standing before him was the mountain spirit, and in restrained, subtle fury, she reminded her husband of his promise, and that if not for the children, she would have killed him instantly. The two locked in a mutual gaze until she faded away in front of him, abandoning her mortal family, and she was never seen again. If you want more, check out my video, The Ghosts and Demons of Japan, here. Please like, subscribe, and I will see you all very, very soon.